What's for dinner? Hey everyone, I'm Chef Z and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be making Salmon Guisado, which is essentially stewed salmon. Now this recipe is perfect for Lent season or for any time that you are just craving a nice and delicious salmon dinner. Now I am going to admit something that I'm a little bit ashamed of, but it took me forever and a day to master making salmon, and it's because I was making one very crucial mistake. So hang on until the very end because I'm going to be giving you guys an awesome tip to make sure that you make salmon perfect each and every single time. In the meantime, let's go ahead and jump right into this recipe. Making salmon guisado is super easy, and we're going to be using so many fresh ingredients that this will definitely become one of your favorite salmon recipes. We're going to start things off by seasoning our salmon with some fresh limes, but you can definitely use lemons or sour oranges. Keep in mind that if you want to season your salmon ahead of time, don't add the lime until the very end, because if you add it too soon, the lime will actually begin to cook your salmon. We're now going to go ahead and add some Dominican oregano and some salt to taste, and you can definitely use adobo. Keep in mind that I'm using pink Himalayan salt, which isn't as salty as traditional salt. I'm also going to add some black pepper, and we're going to mix everything until it's well combined. Now, I'm not going to let it marinate for super long because, like I mentioned earlier, I don't want the lime juice to start cooking the salmon, so I just let it rest for about 5 minutes while I get the rest of the ingredients ready for the sauce. We're now going to set our flame to medium low, and once that pot has warmed up, we're going to go ahead and add some olive oil. Very carefully, we're going to add the salmon. Now, this is where things can get a little tricky. You definitely want your pan to be hot, but you don't want it to be super hot, because if you rush the cooking process of salmon, it's actually going to release this white substance, which is safe to eat. It's just not that appetizing. So after about 2 minutes, we're going to flip the salmon over, and all we're doing is sealing in all those awesome ingredients that we just added. So after about another 2 minutes, we're going to take out the salmon very carefully, and depending on the thickness of the salmon, it may have already cooked through or it's just perfect, so you do want to keep an eye. Obviously, the thicker pieces take longer to cook than some of the thinner pieces. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to add some onions, some pepper, some garlic, a tiny bit of salt to help it sweat, and some black pepper as well. And we're going to mix it all together and let that saute for about 2 to 5 minutes until it becomes nice and translucent. Keep in mind that when it comes to the bell peppers, you can just use green peppers or red peppers. I like to use a variety because it gives this dish beautiful color. We're now going to add the second half of the Dominican oregano, and we're going to mix that all together. Next, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start building our sauce. We're going to add some tomato paste and some tomato sauce along with a tiny bit of water just to help this sauce get going. And then we're going to mix it all together, and you want to be sure to mash in that tomato paste with the rest of the sauce, because sometimes tomato paste can be just a little bit stubborn. And then we're going to let that simmer for about 2 minutes, and once you see that it's begun to simmer, we're going to go ahead and we're going to add some dry white wine, and you can use whatever kind of wine that you have, including some cooking wine. And now we're also going to add some cilantro, some thyme, and again some more salt and pepper because we're seasoning this to taste. So go ahead and taste the sauce as you go along. If you're using adobo, keep in mind that adobo is much saltier than the pink Himalayan salt that I'm using in today's video. We're going to mix that all together, and once that has begun to simmer again, we're going to add just a tiny bit of sugar, and we're also going to add some olives. I'm adding the sugar because it's going to help balance out the acidity of the tomato sauce that I have right here. But if you don't like a subtly sweet sauce, then feel free to skip the sugar. Now we're going to add the star of the show, which is the salmon. We're going to add the salmon into the sauce very carefully because we don't want to break up the salmon and we want to keep it in those thick chunks as much as possible. So once we've added all the pieces, we're just going to go ahead and we're going to flip them over, making sure that each piece of salmon is coated in this beautiful sauce. And once we've done that, we're just going to close the lid and we're going to turn the flame down to the lowest possible setting and cook it for an additional 2 minutes. So there you guys have it, my recipe for salmon guisado. If you have any questions, visit my website. And until next time, I'm Chef Z y buen provecho. Alright guys, here are some quick tips to making sure that you make salmon perfect each and every single time. Now, I don't know about you, but for me, it was really frustrating when people used to tell me that cooking salmon was super easy because I would mess it up time and time again. And the reason I was messing it up is that every time I would cook it, there would be this white substance kind of oozing out. And I just want you guys to know that that white substance is totally safe to eat. All it is some protein that's actually coagulated together, so it's come together, and the proper term for it is albumin. And you usually get that white substance when you cook it too fast on heat that's too high.
This is fine.
So my biggest tip when making salmon is to actually pay attention to your heat setting. You want your pan to be hot, but you definitely don't want it to be super hot. You want to get it to that perfect hotness where it's going to seal in all of those beautiful seasonings, just like we did in today's video. And I recommend doing that on a medium flame because that's something that you can definitely control. Now, everyone's stove is different and you know your stove, so if you know that you can get that medium heat by going a little bit higher or a little bit lower, then go ahead and do that. Now, another way to making sure that you don't get that albumin seeping through whenever you're making salmon is to prepare a quick brine. And I've done this in a few of my videos. And all a brine is, you're going to take some water, you're going to take some salt, about 1 to 2 tablespoons, depending on how much salmon you're making. And you want to put that salmon in the brine and let it sit for a little bit. I would say for about 10 to 20 minutes, and then rinse off the salmon with some fresh water and go ahead and cook it as you would. So there you guys have it, some really quick tips to getting that salmon perfect and yummy each and every single time. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click that bell so that you're notified each and every single time I post an all new video. And if you want to see more yummy recipes here on my channel, feel free and click right here.